President. Please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the floor is given to the defense team for Kyew Sampon to resume the questioning. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I would like to provide to the witness another document from the Military Tribunal dated 9 June 1999, document E3/1560. And the ERNs I would like to focus on are Khmer ERN 0032 30787, French 00327329, English 00327326. With your leave, Mr. President, I would like to provide this document to the witness, and can we please display the page in question on the screen?
Yes, please, but could you repeat the ERN number in English?
Yes, in English, 00327326.
Monsieur le témoin, la question.
Witness, the question reads as follows. Did you ever interrogate the prisoners yourself, and who were these people? Your answer. At times, I went to converse with people that had been interrogated, such as Tauk Pun, Chim Sam Ok, alias Pong, Chuchet, alias Si, and Vorn Vet. And then you develop the topics which apparently you discussed at S21. Before I put my question to you, I do have in mind your explanations, your previous explanations, saying that there was a problem in the grammar of the sentence. My question is, however, do you stand by the fact that the investigating judges of the military tribunal, in the presence of your lawyer and despite your signature, distorted your statements? Do you stand by that?
Mr. President, I would like to read. Did you personally interrogate prisoners? Who were they? Sometimes I went to converse with prisoners, the ones who had already been interrogated, such as Toi Phuon, Somehow alias Pong, Chuchet alias Si, and Von Wait. And the contents of those conversations were that I wanted to know about the lives of Pol Pot, Ieng Sari, Sun Sen, Kyew Sampon, and Toi Phuon when they were in France. As for Chim Sam alias Pong, Chuchet alias Si, and Von Wait, I wanted to know about the internal structure of the CP, of the party, and history of the Communist Party and Revolutionary of Cambodia. And I was engaged in the interrogation of some individual, Koi Chuan, Siet Chai, and Siet Chai. The others were from Sun Sen. There were two types of interrogation at S21. Concerning Toi Phuon, after he had been interrogated, after he was relieved from the beating, I went to chit-chat with him. Could I finish my testimony, counsel?
Monsieur le témoin, vous ne répondez pas.
Witness, you're not answering my question, and my time is running out. Of course, I'm willing to let you speak, but my question was specific. I'm not asking you to repeat what you already said. My question was very specific. Do you stand by the fact that the investigating judge, in the presence of your lawyer, and despite your signature, distorted your statements in this specific passage? That was my question.
It is written in the record, and the content of the record here may not have been written correctly. That is why I made a mention about using the same verb and adverb, and the adverb in that sentence concern the timeline. In fact, I conversed with Bang before his arrest, and as for C, I had a conversation with him afterward, after his arrest, interrogation. However, what is written in the document is the summary of all the facts by the investigating judge. For that reason, I informed Judge Lavenge that usually one same adverb cannot be used for events that happened. That is why I want to clarify about the issue. And again, this is the summary of made by the investigating judge back then. President, that is enough, and you may proceed to another line of questioning. The chamber will evaluate the evidence during the time that judgment is prepared.
Mr. President, I am not done with my questions regarding this point, and I'm asking for the application of Rule 85, which govern procedure before this court, and to please allow me to enjoy my rights fully. I have the impression that when I'm dealing with certain topics, I'm disturbing. Well, I would like to finish, and when the witness does not answer my questions clearly, I'd like to be sure of his answer. So, Mr. President, may I please proceed? It won't take me much time. May I please proceed with this issue, because I am not done. I cannot move on to another line of questions if I am not done with the issue which is at the core of the defense of my client.
President, I think the witness has already answered the question. You can move on, and perhaps the witness may have not different answers than what he has already testified, and you can put further question. I do not prohibit you from asking further questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what you're telling us, witness, is since Christophe Péchou and then later on Steve Heder, who retranscribed the interview, since you were questioned about Kesampan and Yengsari before the Evidentiary Tribunal, so you're saying that the investigating judge here distorted your statement here, so there was distortion of your statements despite the different people you spoke to. Is that what we must understand from what you're telling?
I am not talking about distortion. The investigating judge synthesized what I answered at the time. The true situation was different, and the event happened at two different timelines. I had a conversation with Pong before his arrest, and Chujet alias C conversed with me after the arrest. That was the true situation. However, as I said, the investigating judge back then synthesized what I told him. I did not say the investigating judge distorted my testimony back then.
Vous dites quand même.
However, you're saying that you were not able to say that you did not say that you had a discussion with Pong when you were at the S21. It's the absolute opposite that we see in this document that was issued by the investigating judge.
Donc ce n'est pas un résumé.
So it's not a summary here we're speaking about. It's a distortion. You're saying that it is false. You said you did not speak to Pong at S21.
President, I believe your summary is not correct. You made mention about the conversation between Pong and the witness when he was in H70 and at S21. And the document is written about the meeting between Pong and the witness after Pong was in S at 21. The witness made a mention very clearly in Khmer that he never conversed with Pong at S21 after Pong's arrest.
That was indeed what I understood. The real issue is that in the answer he provided before the investigating judge of the military tribunal, he speaks about prisoners and he mentions the names of these prisoners. So I simply wanted to underscore here that this is not a summary of the discussion, but of another statement than what he's talking about today. And I wanted him to confirm that what we see in this document of June 1999 before the investigating judge does not correspond to his testimony, and therefore it was distorted.
President, I want to make a clarification with you the words that you used, particularly concerning the time after Pong's arrest. So you have to make specific, you have to refer to specific timeline about the case of Pong so that we can proceed forward.
In the excerpt which I just read out and which you read out yourself, witness, conversations are discussed with prisoners. That's the point. And your answer deals with prisoners, and you mentioned Pong in this list of prisoners. You're telling me that this is a summary. And I'm telling you that in this answer, such as you read it out, we understand that you spoke with Pong when he was a prisoner at S21. So my question is, therefore, these statements, as we see here, as are distorted and do not correspond to what you said.
President, you may proceed, International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the objection is, this has been asked many times. I think the problem is counsel keeps using the word distorted, and that is not the witness's word. The witness is saying that there's a mistake in here in the way that the investigating judge wrote this down, and that's why we keep going back and forth. But it's the word distorted that the witness that seems to be the problem here, and I don't know why she keeps using that word when the witness doesn't say that.
Well, it appears that in Khmer we are not facing this issue, so let me resort to French and all of its subtlety, and I will say, well, is there maybe an error in this record from the military tribunal?
Witness, thank you. Allow me to clarify the point. The same thing is repeated here. There were 4 different events happened at the time. Now I'm speaking about the cases of Toi Phuon and Brother C. Long after they were interrogated, I went to see them, and I'm not speaking about the content of my discussion with the 2 individuals. As for Pong, the person within A7T, I had the conversation with him before he was at S21. And as for Won Wait, he arrived in the evening, and the day after I went to see him, and I expressed my apology toward him. Back in the past, I made a clarification with Judge Lavench about the 4 different events, and I made a mention about grammatical system concerning the same adverb used.
My apologies. So therefore I conclude that there is an error in this document. Can you tell the Chamber how, despite the principle of secrecy, which you said you stood by, and which Pong was subjected to as well, how was it possible for him to speak freely to you, whereas he was faced with his obligations? How could he speak to you about the details of his work or about the details of the work of other people when you said at the hearing of 15 June last that even a friend such as Pun could not be apprised of your work? Can you explain how both of you broke this rule of secrecy?
First, I would like to correct one word. Phuon, husband of Ri, the child of Ieng Sari, I had never discussed with him the Santebas issue. Pong came to supervise S21. Brother Nguyen introduced Pong to me, and I was advised to discuss S21 tasks with Pong. So Pong was introduced by the party to come and see me. So if I had questions or doubts, I would approach Pong. I am not speaking about other issue. For example, the arrest of C that was decided by the party.
Regarding Dun, in fact, do you remember when he was arrested? What was the date when he was arrested?
อคุณ
Mr. President, I do not recall when Puen was arrested, but that happened after the arrest of Koi Thun. Duan, correction from interpreter.
Now, for the chambers and the parties, on the co-investigating judges list, document E393.2, we see Sir Vasi alias Dun at number 14596, 14,596, and a priori he was arrested in February 1977. Does this date of February 1977 refresh your memory in any way, witness?
I suggest you should use the document which is widely accepted by the world, the list which is widely known, which I am confident in the list.
Now, can we please provide to the document E3/1625, which is Dun's confession, and we see a date, April 1977. It's at Khmer ERN 000111292, English 00. Let me give the Khmer ERN again. 000111292, English 00759709, and French 007610023. Can we please provide this document to the witness and display it on the screen?
President, yes, please.
Ce document.
What I would like to focus on in this document is the date. So, do you remember if Dun was detained at S21 in April 1977?
Est-ce que ça vous rafraîchit la mémoire?
Does that refresh your memory, witness?
Mr. President, so what is your question, counsel? You can put it now.
Does this document refresh your memory regarding Dun's arrest and detention at S21?
Thank you. The document was shown to me and I was asked about the date. It is beyond my capacity, my ability to tell you about what happened long time ago. So please, you should use the list that is accepted by the chamber if you want to know about the date that people were smashed.
So I conclude that this document does not refresh your memory. When you were questioned on 13 June last regarding Dun, you explained that you were aware of his duties, regarding logistics and communication, because you would go to the ministry on a regular basis. And to make sure that we're clear about this, I would like to provide you with the draft transcript of 13 June 2016. This was a little bit after 3:56 and 51 seconds in the afternoon.
Et avec l'autorisation de...
And with your leave, Mr. President, can we please display this document on the screen?
President, yes, please.
La question qui vous est...
So the question that's put to you by the co-prosecutor was, and I quote, how did you know that Dun or Susvasi were in charge of logistics and of communication? And your answer was the following. First, the Ministry of Commerce was a major ministry that was in charge of many different things. Bong Rut of Son Sen's family and myself had friendly relations. I would go to the ministry on a regular basis, and that's how I learned it. End of quote. Yesterday, when I questioned you with regard to your visits to the ministry, you told us that you did not go there often, but that you had only gone there once. So what is the true story here?
de position.
Now, let's clear up the issue. I went to the ministry only once concerning the important task. Bong asked me to accompany him to the ministry, and I frequently visited the ministry as well, since we were old friends and we used to be in the same detention in the past. But I was instructed by the party to go to the ministry to deal with the important issue once. I once went to the ministry to deal with important issue, but compared to the visits to Hock's house, I went to Hock's house more frequently. Soon Kam Hong, alias me, also made mention about that. Hock also made a mention about it. So it was discussed by those individuals about the duties and also about the mind of Survasi.
You said that your visit with Pong took place as soon as he took on supervisory duties at S21, that is to say after 15 August 77 when Son Sen left. And as I showed you in the Dun's confession, it appears that he was already detained at S21 when you carried out that visit. So how can you tell us that you're speaking about Deun and his duties, whereas he was already detained at S21?
I had learned about Deun on a continuous basis. I knew Deun since October 1967. Then we separated from one another. So I was informed about Deun before he was in detention at S21. Pong also discussed Deun's case with me before his detention. Chai Kum Ho alias Hawk, brother Rit, comrade Rit rather. Chai Kum Ho alias Hawk, comrade Rit, Bin Kum Hong, Tin Kum Hong alias me. They used to be in the revolution. They used to engage in the revolution together. So they discussed about Deun before he was in detention.
Un dernier point.
One last point I would like us to talk about is the fact that in June 2016 you referred to another committee apart from the standing committee, and you called it another permanent committee. You referred to Kruchak Earth. You use that term. Can you explain to the chamber why, whereas you had been examined since 1980 at length, it was only in June 2016 that you referred to that new committee called the Permanent Committee?
After I provided my testimony to the chamber, I made it clear about the standing committee of the party centers, and there were 7 members, 2 of whom were not based in Phnom Penh. As for the Politburo of the party, the 2 were removed, but 1 was added, and then there were Brother Paul Noon, Wan, Won, Brother Kieu, and Brother Haim. Of course, Brother Kieu means Son Sen, and they were based in Phnom Penh. They were also known as the party center's office. When I was under the supervision of Son Sen, they used the word the Kanak Pracham Kar, or the Permanent Committee, or 870 Committee, which was used rather more frequently. And I can delve into more details if you want to know. But I want to talk about Brother C, who scolded these permanent committee members as the Phnom Penh group.
Excuse me, witness. My question was why, since 1999, when you started being examined, it was the first time that you used the term Kanakomchak only in June 2016. So the term is Prochamka in Khmer, corrects the interpreter.
ការនេះ
I spoke about the standing committee of the party center, and that was based on the party statute. That's the highest authority of the party, was based on the National Congress. In between the next Congress, the responsibility was at the center. But the new statute, it was the responsibility of the center. So the authority was vested fully with the center, and that encompassed the standing committee, the permanent committee as well. These were the two main bodies, that is, the standing committee and the permanent committee, or 870 committee.
La réalité, monsieur le témoin.
So the reality, witness, and that is the reason why you have difficulty explaining why you gave this name for the first time. The reality is what you told the chamber, that is the fact that you were far from the center and you did not know how the standing committee functioned, nor did you know how the Politburo of the CPK functioned, and it was following the different readings of your interpretations of documents on record that today you are inventing this new committee called Prochamka Committee. Is that not the truth, witness?
Your conclusion is partly correct. The correct part is that I was not part of the upper echelon leadership of the CPK. However, my knowledge from 1975 to 1979 was reflecting in the facts, because Son Sen used to speak about the permanent committee. Son Sen also mentioned the 870 committee, and it was also written in the party documents, that is a document dated 30 March 1976, about the weekly report to 870. And usually Son Sen prefers to use the word 870 instead. Brother Mok and Pum did not attach that meeting to my knowledge. And I did not want to talk about the scolding by J and C, but I heard about the word Kena Prachamka, that is permanent committee, or 870, or the scolding of those labeled as the intellectual group. I heard it during the regime. My knowledge was obtained during the regime, and what I say is based on the knowledge back then.
Et pourtant, dans votre...
And yet, in your answer, you rely on the transcript of the 30th of March 2016, and you said you didn't say that you saw it for the first time in 2007. Isn't that the case?
Defense counsel, please rephrase your question. I think there is a confusion in terms of the document that you refer to and the date of that document.
Est-ce qu'il est exact, monsieur le témoin?
Is it correct, witness, that the directive of the 30th of March 1976, on which you base part of your answer, is a document that you only saw for the first time in 2007?
My previous response is clearly, and if you are a person with a conscience, you should know it well. I had spoken about 1870 for a long time, and just to pinpoint one of the many documents, that's why I refer to the document dated 30 March 1976. My response is clear enough, and if you have a conscience, you are a person with a brain, then you should understand it well.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, I have concluded my examination and the chamber will weigh the evidence.
Thank you, Counsel. And now I'd like to return the floor to the defense team for Onunji to put further questions to this witness.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Counsel. And good morning, Mr. Duik, Mr. Witness. 2 days ago, we were speaking about what you had described as the Great Leap victory over Sao Pim in 1978. Sao Pim, secretary of another or a second communist party in democratic Kampuchea. You called that party on the 21st of June 2016 at 1603, and I quote, the People's Revolutionary Party of Kampuchea. But in your presentation, 18 June 78 to S21 cadres, that is E3/834, English 00184498, Khmer 00077476, no French. You referred to it as the Workers' Party of Kampuchea that Sao Pim and Runim had been leading. Is that the accurate name, Workers' Party of Kampuchea?
First, allow me to speak about the document, because in that document the word Great Leap Forward does not exist, and of course you do not mention about the phrase Great Leap Forward. My political view was, as I stated, that if we defeated Khmer was like we defeated the enemy, and this is my brief response. And please repeat your last part of the question, since I cannot remember it.
Well, let me show you a document, Mr. Witness, Mr. President. That is E3/7327. English ERN 00015679, Khmer only 01113795. Mr. Witness, this is originally an English document that we do not have the Khmer original of. It belongs to...
Council Copper, please repeat the EN number once again.
0111 3795. So it's a People's Revolutionary Tribunal document. We don't have the original Khmer version, but I will give you the Khmer translation of this document, and I would like you to have a look at this. Mr. Witness, this document seems to be a press release of DK on the 3rd of June 1978. It says on the top, "Greetings to our party's victories in the leadership of the CIA's Kampuchean Workers' Party on June 3rd, 1978. Top men of the Kampuchean Workers' Party, 1 Pim, 2 Nim, 3 Kiumiz, 4 Ya, 6 Koitun," and it goes on till 14, and then there's another 4 persons as well. Do you remember that a press release was issued in relation to the victory of on the Kampuchean Workers' Party? Mr. Witness? Do you remember a press release being issued or not?
You asked me to read a document that is the People's Revolutionary Tribunal, but you asked me whether a press release was issued by CPK instead. It is rather difficult for me to respond. So, what do you want me to say? Please be specific.
What I want to know is whether you knew if on the 3rd of June 1978 a press release was issued on the victory of the Kampuchean Workers' Party.
International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I simply ask counsel if counsel could repeat the E3 number for this document, because I'm not finding the references from his ERNs.
It's a one-page document, E3/7327. It says S000S0001569. That might be the problem. But the trial chamber has admitted it. It's E3/7327.
This document belongs to the People's Revolutionary Tribunal, issued by the People's Republic of Cambodia in August 1979. So the person who originated this document was the People's Revolutionary Tribunal, and for that reason I am not in a position to know about the press release that might be made by by that tribunal.
That's no problem, but I'll just stick to the name that you used on the 21st of June 2016, the People's Revolutionary Party of Kampuchea. You said that was led by Salpim and Runim. Do you know whether military people were also part of that party? Specifically, I'd be referring to Division 310 Commander Un, East Zone Division Commander Chan Chakrai, Heng Samrin, and for instance Chuk. Do you know whether these four people were also considered to be members of that opposing party?
Your question actually confuses me. However, allow me to say about what happened on the ground in my capacity as chief of S21. Confessions of prisoners who were detained at S21 implicated many people, including Chakrai, Chu, and Soon, and Un. As for Un, he had been arrested. Also, they implicated Ren, but Ren was not arrested and he's still alive. He is now the president of the National Assembly, says the witness.
Let me move away from that because of time, Mr. Witness. 2 days ago we also spoke about a meeting of the Central Committee of the Vietnamese Communist Party, in which, according to an academic and also according to Chanda, the person you know, a decision was made to start an internal uprising within the DK, and if that wouldn't work, Vietnam would invade. Let me ask you something very specific about this. You might recall that I had read to you at one point minutes of a meeting of secretaries and deputy secretaries of divisions. There was a meeting on the 9th of October 1976 where Son Sen spoke. Mr. President, it was E3/13. And I read to you a part from English ERN 00940343, Khmer 000524006, and French 0033496. Son Sen was talking to people like Un, Song, and other division commanders, and speaking about the key plan of the Vietnamese, the East, and Soviet Union behind them. And he also referred to a Czechoslovakia kind of style. Now, having said that, you had conversations with Son Sen. Did Son Sen ever mention to you his fear that Vietnam, together with collaborating forces in DK, would attack DK in a style comparable to what the Soviet Union did in 1968 with an Eastern European country called Czechoslovakia?
documents that was shown to me was asked already by the defense counsel why my name was not there. I said that it was the military meetings on the technical aspects of the military, and I did not have anything to do with it. So that is clear about that document. And the question is whether Son Sen ever gave a lecture about the use of the technique or style of attack like the one against Yugoslavia. No, that was not. He did not speak in details about the techniques or strategy employed by the Vietnamese troops against Cambodia. But S-21 was the anti-spy unit, and the UN was considered spies, and we had to purge all those reactionary elements. Pol Pot gave, in general, instructions on the strategy employed by the UN side, that they tries to persuade Pol Pot to surrender to them, and in fact that was the method of Lê Jun. And if they could not do that to Pol Pot, then they would engage in a coup d'etat. And if that was still not successful, then they would bring an army in to attack. And that was the general instructions by Pol Pot. And for that reason, I concur with the excerpt by Nayan Chanda. And Nayan Chanda quoted a passage from Quan Van Dong, and which was consistent with what Pol Pot said. So that matter is clear for all.
Just for the record, I didn't say, maybe that went wrong in the translation, Yugoslavia, but I said Czechoslovakia. But maybe it would be more helpful if I would read something to you. Maybe that would somehow jog your memory. Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to read an excerpt from E3/2376. It's an excerpt from Nayan Chanda's book, English ERN 00192-401, French 00237080, and Khmer 001911551. Mr. Witness, it's the first document in the green binder, and maybe this will somehow jog your recollection. So Chanda is writing about the month just before that February plenum meeting of the Vietnamese Communist Party. And he says the following. In late January 1978, General Grigorievich Pavlovsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Soviet ground forces, arrived in neighboring Laos in his special Aeroflot jetliner for a friendly visit. Vietnamese Minister of Defense, General Vo Nguyen Nhap, flew to Vieng Sai in northern Laos for an unpublicized meeting with the Soviet general to review the Cambodian situation. Pavlovsky's advice, a Vietnamese official told me years later, was do a Czechoslovakia. The Chinese were powerless to come to the aid of their Khmer friends, the general argued, so the Vietnamese should simply drive their armored columns to Phnom Penh and remove Pol Pot from power the way the Soviet army removed Alexander Dubček in Prague in 1968. Yap balked at the suggestion. the Vietnamese, he reportedly said, would solve the problem, quote unquote, in their own appropriate way, end of quote. Now again, you had many contacts with Son Sen. Did Son Sen ever mention you that the fear was that Vietnam would do a Czechoslovakia-style attack on democratic Kampuchea?
I never received any information about the imminent attack by Vietnam into Cambodia in a Czechoslovakia style. Not at all. And regarding these visits by the Soviet general with the Defense General Vo Nguyen Giap, I had no knowledge of that. However, later on, after I read the document dated 15 May 1976, when Pol Pot gave instruction that Pan Hiem said Cambodian troops attacks them in their territory. And Pol Pot said the most important thing was that for the Cambodian side not to allow the people from the inside to open the way for the enemy to attack. And he spoke briefly about Czechoslovakia, that Czechoslovakia was in the cage of the Soviet Union. And I was not well aware of the international situation at the time.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Before I move on from 1978 to alleged or contemplated coup d'etats in 1977, let me, for the record, and also in response to earlier questions from the bench, Mr. President, refer the Chamber and the parties to E3/2376, English ERN 00192419, Khmer 00191572, and French 00237095. Chanda referring also to a mid-February 1978 Politburo meeting discussing the way forward, and also a very interesting document E3/540, which are East German reports from the East German Minister of Foreign Affairs. That is English only. I have the German, but I will read the English. 012463939, in which it says, and I quote, confidential reports state that the Socialist Republic of Vietnam side is striving for a solution of the kind that would enable the remaining patriotic forces of Kampuchea to seize the initiative and wrest power from Pol Pot and his followers. Of the current group of 5 in Phnom Penh, Politburo member Nguyen Chia alone has yet to compromise himself directly vis-à-vis the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Having said that, I'm looking at the clock, Mr. President. Maybe this is a good moment to stop.
Just for the record, the date for the last document you quoted?
The document is from, I'll be more precise, Council of Ministers of the German Democratic Republic, 20 January 1978. It is addressed to a member of the Politburo and Secretary of the Central Committee of the Socialist Unity Party of Germany. And the report is from someone called Klaus-Dieter Pflaum, and that particular remark you can read in the original German 00537671.
Judge Laverne, you have the floor.
Yes, Councillor Koppe, I didn't have the time to read this passage because it's difficult, of course, to read and follow the proceedings at the same time. But can you tell us if Nayan Chanda is providing us with a reference regarding the meetings that he is describing in his book?
As a matter of fact, he does, but these are articles in the Far Economic Eastern Review which are not yet on the case file. But when he refers to the mid-February plenum meeting, I believe it is a source, a human source that he has spoken to, who was presumably present at that Central Committee meeting. Presumably he spoke to this source somewhere in the summer of '78.
Where did you obtain this information? I would like to know where this information comes from.
You mean the Far Economic Eastern Review articles? They are not on the case file yet, but I read them.
No, Councillor Koppe, what I mean is you told us that Nayan Chaya might have obtained information following a discussion he had with someone. So where did you get that information, or is this simple supposition on your part?
Well, the thing is, I'm not able to use that article yet because it's not on the case file.
The question is more technical. Is it a footnote, an endnote that makes you think this is the source?
There are no notes in that particular article. And in his own book that was used as basis for his cross-examination in case 1, he only refers to the Politburo meeting, also without naming the actual source. But as we all know, Vietnam is not very keen on giving minutes of standing committee meetings, so we have to do it with those two academics. But that's, of course, the reason why I added this East German document together with the Russian general, the Soviet Union general.
Thank you. It is now appropriate for a lunch break. We'll take a break now and resume at 1:30 to continue our proceedings. Security personnel just had to take you some pawn as well as the witness to separate waiting rooms downstairs and have Kilson pawn back into the courtroom before 1:30. As for the witness, have him returned to the courtroom at 1:30. The court is now in recess.